Greetings, Sir and Sirettes, and welcome back to Stonehearth with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the ever-expanding village of Steindorf. Now, off-camera, I've been a tiny little bit busy making sure my halflings could finally finish this building, excluding the scaffolding, which they are finally taking down. I have started work on the Mega Tower, which will be the big prime building of the village, and I've started to make the walls look a little bit more 3D, as one thing I will say is that this village section right now looks horrible. I simply mean the walls. I hate the fact they're so flat, they're so lifeless, they just look really, really unnatural. So what we're going to try and do is make everything look a little bit more 3D. We're going to work a little bit on the Mega Tower, which I've just built the very base of, and we are going to hopefully build a couple more buildings in this area over here, the main living quarters and perhaps shepherding quarters of our village. I still want more space though. I am very space hungry, and I am quickly realizing to make all of those tailors have enough fiber to keep on doing what they're doing, we're going to need more sheep, because once again we can't farm fiber. Although I have now finally got some more of these lovely plants, and I've ordered all of these to be collected, which may happen eventually. So, let's get started. What should we work on first? It's a Christmas miracle! The halflings are actually going towards somewhere which I've ordered them to go towards. They are finally collecting the wild silkweed. It's only took them about 5 day cycles to realise I want this stuff, but finally they are doing it, so well done to my little halflings. Now, admittedly, that is partially my fault. I've had so much building work around the village and so much mining work, those tend to take the higher priority over, I can't remember what it's called. I'm assuming hauling or perhaps job when it comes to the workers. So they were doing all of the building and all of the mining. If I really wanted it fast, I could have, of course, just simply turned off these two, but we can still blame the halflings anyway, because that's the easiest thing to do. Yes, that's right, it's all your fault. Now, one thing which people have been telling me to do since I first built the wall is to build crenellations. Now, crenellations in this game are pretty much completely pointless. They really are, but also so is having a more than one thick wall, so why not make it look somewhat decent? Now, the problem I do run into is that when I am building crenellations, it tends to look a little bit forced. It doesn't look particularly neat once they're added, especially since we can't add a very small section after that, which could connect the two segments, make it look a little bit more natural. Instead, we get what is essentially lumps of stone, which I don't really think looks particularly attractive. Even if we make it a little bit thicker, that isn't a very attractive prospect. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to add this or not. I think I'm going to err on the side of safety and simply say not, and just keep on making sure the sides are a bit more 3D, they look a little bit more natural, and leave these until afterwards if we ever do add them. There we are. And what I'm going to do is then add this to the other side, and whilst I'm looking at it, would perhaps a 3 thick segment, these little pillars I've been building, perhaps a 3 thick version of this look a bit better than a 1 thick version, look a little bit more sturdy? I think it would, honestly. I may try that on the inside, and then if I like it, also transfer it to the outside. A living sleeping bag is attacking us, and has now been defeated. There we are, well done to my troops, and our halflings are once again going over here to get the silkweed. Everything is going well. In addition to this, we now have our 38th person. I can't quite remember which one of these workers it is, but I do know they have a fantastic spirit stat and a fantastic body stat. So yep, that is the new person. Maybe they are actually listed in order of when they arrived, or is it just in order of... No, it's definitely in order of alphabeticalness. It just so happens that was weirdly coincidental. Before we get moving on all of the crenellations and stuff, I think it's time to edit the inside of this particular house. That way we can have a bit of a dining hall, some lovely cooks working in there, and even a couple of beds, just to make sure anyone working in this section, as we add more and more, has somewhere to sleep, even if it is in one particular house. It's a little bit weird, I know, but it works. At least that's what I keep telling myself, and that's the important part. So what do we want? On the top, we can have a little communal sleeping area, because now this is... Oh, I know what this could be! This could be a pub. It could be the local pub for all of our little halflings. It serves beer and happiness and food, and you can sleep at the top. So what more could you possibly want from your local bar? There we are, and then we'll do the same over here as well. And that's enough beds for anyone, really. And I think there should already be a ladder, though we can't see it right now. No, it's apparently being built. So as soon as someone goes in there and finally builds the ladder, we can put down the beds at the top. So down here, then, we want somewhere for our lovely halflings to eat. The beds are finally being placed after what took quite a while for the halflings to realise they have a job to do, and I've put down some very basic blueprints for the dining hall. It's going to be very simple and very easy to use, and that's pretty much all we're really after. Now, I thought that looked really weird and honestly thought that was bugged out. Turns out I still had the building vision on, and now all of the stress and problems has disappeared. The beds are in place, a brand new day has just dawned, and we are now working on the dining table. I already have the cook currently at work, making all the different cook items, like the stone cauldron and the others, such as the stone oven and the mill grinder. Once all of those are in place, we can change these chests to only accept food, and then we can have a nice little eating place here. Look, even our cleric is here right now, and by the looks of things, we should hopefully have some of the cook's items ready right now. Unless I simply didn't ask for them to be created, which is very possible. The cook items are now in place, and apparently this fellow is just walking around up here causing the combat music to go off, whilst not really doing anything threatening. He's just kind of walking. Where are you even going? Are you really going all the way here to attack this door? Are you doing all of that pathing to attack this door? Let's find out. Yes, he is. Sure, you can do that. You can stay there and destroy that door all you want, and when you eventually come back around, my forces are defending in this location and will happily kill you. Eventually. That may have been some of the worst tactics I've ever seen from the enemy. And now he's burning. Horribly. Well, the halflings are busy at work trying to add a little bit of 3D to the rest of this section of wall. Let's start planning how we're going to do the rest of this area. Now, the one problem I do have is that the houses are going to be quite big. There's no chance of it really being overly spacious, so I feel like we do need to plan as best as possible. So what I'm going to do first is very, very quickly put down a section of road. This way we can at least see where the basics are going to be, and hopefully not overdo it, or at least hopefully not build in the wrong sections. Let's go with that. That will be the roads of this village. Though I want the road to be 4 thick. That would take up a lot of space, but it would at least add to the whole fact of, well, it's easy to plan around. So let's do that. Let's go all the way down to here, like so. Then once again with the 4 over to here, and then come down again over there. So at very minimum we have the road around the little shepherdy area, and that will have to go to here somehow. Should I just go straight like that? Sure, that's fine. So 4 for the major section, then 3 wide for the rest. So where are the rest of the houses going to go? Although we do have a door here, there is actually no purpose to it. There's no reason for any halfling to ever go through this door. So if we do want to build in front of it, we can do. But what I feel like would be a better idea is to once again just put down some road back to 4 thick because of the door, which is going to be really weird now, but okay, we'll go with it for now. Let's just pretend it's all normal, and then have this as another building. So this section here will be a secondary building. And what should that building be? I am thinking, believe me, I'm at least trying to, how about a larger house there, and then we have a couple of smaller houses here, so perhaps 2 or 3 very small houses here, similar to the default houses, and then we have one larger one here, or perhaps even a storage house. keeping this still at the end of the road. I'm not too sure. I think I'll do the small houses first, and then I'll think about how it looks afterwards. Well, here's the first prototype for one of the houses, and definitely not what I'm going to keep, but I do kind of like a few of the ideas I've messed around with here. The idea of the house being on multiple tiers, but perhaps a bit less dark than this one. This one just looks like it's a slab of rock, which a house has been put on top. Honestly, it kind of weirdly, to me at least, looks a bit like a cake. One of those cakes where you've added decorations to try and make it look like a certain scene, but not really working properly. I do like the idea, and I think something like this would be okay, but maybe not this exact one, then adding a lot of decorations on the side to make it look a little bit more lived in, having a single bed inside and a tiny bit of storage, which will also sneakily be storage for the whole village, since I'm not going to make them locked to a certain area. And the more I look at it, the more I do like it. It's just the slabs. I wonder if there's an easy way to change the colour of them. No, sadly that doesn't apply to all of them, so I would have to redo this entire bottom section, which isn't something I particularly want to do. I will be thinking about this, and I'm very tempted to have something very similar, but maybe somewhere else. I feel like one of the big problems with this is it kind of sticks out a bit too much. It's fairly obvious it's been done this way. One way this could work is if we had it so the bottom was even higher, and maybe there was some kind of storage on the inside. There was a reason for it being so raised, but having it raised like this doesn't really work. I think just having this house section and putting it on the floor would probably work better than fencing off around the outside, and now I've said that, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I will be bearing this in mind for later. So close to number 39. We are still getting a lot of worth very quickly, and since we're doing all this building, it's only helping to speed all that up. But I still feel like having more sheep would be better. We still need more fibre, and once again I will say that the other faction does seem to have a much better rounded economy. It can grow its own trees, it can grow its own fibre, it has a lot more options when it comes to town building. The children, the Raya's children I believe they're called, the current faction I'm playing now, really has relatively little. The other faction, I can't remember exactly what they're called, I believe it might be the Ascendancy, even has a campaign, which we simply don't have, a kind of township thing. So definitely in Alpha 18 I will be playing as them, so I get the most out of it. Not only will I be testing out the new Alpha and all of the improvements that brings, I'll also be testing out what I really do seem to think might be a better faction. Or a more completed faction, I think is a better way of saying it. Number 39 joins our group. Eventually, when he eventually shows up. So until then, what have we done? Well, the path is coming along nicely, the foundations are being laid for our first house, and we even have the fences almost completed. So a lot of incomplete but in progress work, a bit like the early access section on Steam. We also then have the 3D effect starting to come along for the walls. I know I shouldn't call it the 3D effect, but that's all I can think of, because that looks very flat. That looks a little bit more realistic, a little bit more 3D, a little bit more alive. Kind of. And now to annoy everyone. Look! All of these pillars are one thick. Except for this one. This one is too thick. There's no reason for it. It's completely wrong. The new person has finally arrived with what is the most basic looking stat line I've ever seen. 3, 3, and 3. So forever a worker, but forever a decent worker, apparently. There's also a lot of enemies up here which apparently are doing absolutely nothing. Maybe I should send my soldiers there once they've finished eating. Is it them by any chance? They're not really approaching, they're more standing around. And that's just a basic goblin. Not the most threatening of enemies. One very minor but very annoying problem which has been happening recently is this. Whenever you're trying to command your troops, if your order is too far away, for instance, I was just trying to order my guys all the way over here, they will simply not follow that order and start defaulting to their regular activities. So I've tried before to protect certain areas, like, again, I was trying to move them to attack some enemies over here, and instead, they simply stop what they were doing before and default. So rather than just staying there and defending the location, they started wandering around. Like even now, the order is very clearly attack enemies in this area, try to advance, but they're going miles away to kill this guy instead. Which would be understandable, that is an enemy, but even so, it is very bizarre. And even the movement option, the movement command, which should override everything else, doesn't always work. It does sometimes, and of course it works when I'm trying to demonstrate the odd time it doesn't, but sometimes you order them to do something like this, and then they will simply not do anything at all. You need to be very careful once you get a lot of halflings. Their ordering, their command system seems to get worse and worse over time. But look, I'm adding lights. It's going to be beautiful. With the first house now completed, I've started work on the second, which will be a carbon copy of the first, in pretty much every way, including the beds and such on the inside, so both of them will be able to house a single halfling and also have the ability to store a little bit of storage from around the village. I'm not quite sure if I want to make it specific to anything in particular, but for now we'll just leave it open to anything at all. If they want to store even potatoes, they can store the potatoes right there. And right now I'm just waiting for a new gate section to be created, and then I can move on once again. I'm starting to think that perhaps this section over here could be an additional pasture area, perhaps for chickens or something, even though I do need more sheep, it would just add a bit of variety to the whole section. Or we could make it into a park, or a public area, something like that. It wouldn't be difficult to get some of the flowers from down here, and the fruit bushes, for instance, and put them here, add a few fences, add a few benches, and make the whole place look a little bit more natural, rather than just the same type of building over and over again. It's been another day, and it's time for a progress update. So, a lot of the walling is now complete, and honestly, I think I'm going to stick with these beams only being 1 thick. I think they do the job nicely, and ultimately look pretty smooth and silky, like a... smooth and silky. They look smooth and silky. Normally I wouldn't have kept that in, but I was just laughing for a good 5 minutes because of that, so let's try to describe these again. They look like they're flush with the wall, they look like they blend in well, they look like they are structurally secure. All of these things sound a lot better than what I just said. So there we are, the beams are whatever you want the beams to be. Let's continue on, shall we? Now we have the beam discussion out of the way, let's talk about these lovely berry bushes. So now we have all these berry bushes in stock, we have a load of the bright bells coming very, very soon, which means if we go over to the carpenter, who should currently be making fences for the garden area, indeed he is, we can also make things like this, the Bright Bell window box and the Frost Snap window box. We already have loads of these herbs, so we can do that instantly, but I would also like some of these, so we have a mixture of colours. I'm also tempted to put down the blue market stall, not so much because it really works in a park environment, but it just looks like something else. It looks more like a stall which you'd find in a park rather than what it's meant to be. So I think I may add that as well. I'm going to add some wooden garden lanterns to light up the place. And I can't think of anything else just yet. Maybe a couple of simple wooden chairs, which you already have. And then just some more benches, I suppose, like I was discussing earlier. Maybe a table or two. We'll see. We'll see. As the fighting rages on in the background and instantly ends, we have yet another person, meaning this is number 40. We have reached 40 citizens. Wow, we are only 10 off the maximum. We are going to make it before Alpha 18 comes out, even if we don't try as hard as I've been trying to push all of the value and monetary gain of our little village. So, who is our newest fellow, and did they spawn somewhere safe? Thankfully they did. Okay, what are your stats like, good sir? Very good, very high spirit, very high mind. You would be a pretty good cleric, or just pretty much a good crafter of any type, so you are on the short list if I ever need any more crafters, perhaps some more weavers for my totally not a sweatshop, or perhaps a more fire related role, because this whole section over here I've rapidly started to notice is almost always looking like it's on fire. So you have the fire pits and we have the sweatshop. But then we have the nice little drug den. I mean, we have a drug den. That's nice. I finally put down the blue market stall, and admittedly I've put it in the wrong place. It's not quite perfectly in the middle, or at least it doesn't seem to be. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'll check officially afterwards. Either way though, we have the ability to call merchant. I really should have put one of these down a lot earlier. And so I'm going to do that. And then show shop, and we now have a merchant apparently accessible from this. I'm assuming you are the merchant. Hello. Well, that's a little bit glitchy. Can you even get to the stall? Does it matter? No, it doesn't. Well, that's really good. That means at any time we can very easily sell a lot of our scrap, and if we need a tiny bit of wood, which we actually do at the moment, we can always purchase it from her. Let's see. What do I have to sell? Honestly, we have far more ore than we could possibly use, so I think we should sell some of that. We are refining it as fast as possible, but it's just taking a very long time. We have more potions than we are ever going to use. We have 180, and in fact, because we now have the clerics, we don't need that at all. In fact, by having so many potions, our poor herbalist isn't even leveling up, so let's sell those for a whole 1 gold each. We'll keep the special ones. We can sell 139 tapestries. Oh, okay, then if you insist, we'll sell that. We have gargoyles, and we have a load of other scrap as well, which I'll just quickly go ahead and get rid of. So, eventually, the merchant will disappear, and can be available again later. A trader has already visited the stall recently, try again later, so perhaps we'll be able to get other goods as well. But it's still really cool being able to call upon a trader whenever we need the goods, so that is very, very helpful. And again, really wish I did that earlier. Behold the power of so many archers, now all using the recurve bows. Yeah, still takes far too long to kill their chiefs, but you aren't a chief, so say goodbye. And you, could you kindly go ahead and kill that poor fellow over there? Oh, that looks... Yep, that was painful. And we are free once again from the tyranny of the orcs and goblins. A new merchant has been called, and this time they actually spawned in the correct place. And this one is sadly only selling stone, so maybe it is the same inventory every time, but of course I can go ahead and once again sell all of the things we have been creating, and whilst I've got that in mind, I should harvest all of this silkweed. We are now making money much faster again because of just how much silkweed I have here. Every time I harvest all of this, we get a massive boost to our economy because we suddenly make a lot of stuff. Even if we're not making it out of the adorable wool from the adorable little lambs. I'm afraid, though, I am all out of time for today's episode. A lot of the stuff we did today was extremely time-intensive. A lot of building, a lot of basic designing, and trying to sort out a lot of the jobs does take a lot of time. And so, I'm all out of time, and thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that Stonehearth is a series you wish to see continued in the future. In the next episode, we'll have finished the garden area over here, and we can start making the rest of the plans for the rest of the village. There's still quite a bit of space left, and I'm not quite exactly sure how I'm going to do everything. There's a good chance I'll just copy these over to here, so all of this section is nice and symmetrical and neat, but I'm not sure about here. So, thank you again for watching, and goodbye.